Yeah, guys, there's been a fair bit of talk in the media the last week surrounding a thing called coercive control. And it's really been brought to the forefront of conversation off the back of the fact that today marks the 12-month anniversary of Hannah Clarke, Aaliyah, Layana and Trey's death on a Brisbane street here in Camp Hill 12 months ago. And for those of you who don't know what coercive control is, it's an ongoing form of domestic violence which is less often spoke about or recognisable. A victim of coercive control, like Hannah was, often has their rights and their civil liberties slowly stripped in a manner that mightn't appear as aggressive or physical abuse. The abuse is actually illegal, guys, in several countries, but it's been largely overlooked here in Australia. And Hannah Clarke's death has brought the conversation to the forefront of national and public interest. Her parents, Sue and Lloyd, spoke out. Obviously, you've seen them in the media a lot this week. And they believe that if Hannah was living in a country where coercive control laws were enforced and at play, that Rowan Baxter, the man who murdered his wife and children, would either be in jail and this wouldn't have happened and those lives would not have been lost. I'm sure we can all remember, Marto, you and I were here in the studio when news broke that there had been a fire to a car in Camp Hill. And we all heard the moment that a mother and 3 children had lost their lives, having been doused in petrol and set alight by a strange partner and father. And today, that marks 12 months ago here in Camp Hill, just down the road. I lived there for many years. I was raising my own children there, and it really hit home for me, not only as a woman, as a mother, but as a resident of the area. It was just down the road from where I lived, like I said. And I can remember that, I don't know the feeling that everybody else felt, but I felt shocked. I was in disbelief.
It was horrible.
And my heart ached. I was angry. I was frustrated. I was all of the things. How could this happen? I was confused. I didn't understand how we allow this when we have so much awareness around domestic violence, when we talk about it, when we go to events and high teas and lunches. And Marto, you and I host things in honour of speaking out against stuff like this, and yet it's still happening. And one woman every week dies at the hands of domestic violence. Children die at the hands of domestic violence. And my heart ached for Hannah, who we'd learned had actually left a really toxic and controlling relationship. She seemingly
thought she was safe,
had done the right thing. She got out, but we all know that this is the most at-risk time for domestic violence victims, because this is where the rage starts to set in, one of the processes that men and women go through in this situation. But my heart also ached for a family and her friends who had now had their hearts ripped out of their chests and who would have to go on to grieve for forever. How does this happen? I mean, Hannah had justified this controlling behaviour to family and friends. She'd confided in them, but because he never physically harmed her, she didn't feel like she was a domestic violent victim. She just thought, it's fine, I can manage it. He's just controlling. But we now know that this coercive control is such a big part of leading to the abuse and to, unfortunately, in Hannah and her 3 children's case, their death. Hannah bravely detailed the attack to the police twice before succumbing to burns covering 97% of her body. She wanted justice for her kids. She wanted justice for herself, who perished in this heinous act, showing strength even in her weakest and most helpless moment, knowing that she had lost her children and possibly would lose her own life. She wanted justice. Wow. And we don't want Hannah's death to be in vain. Her parents have started Small Steps for Hannah, which is a foundation set up in their honour to raise awareness, to put education into our schools and to put information out in and around domestic violence. And they've asked us today, our Lord Mayor Adrian Schrinner and his wife, who are heavily involved with the charity, are going to be lighting up the assets of Brisbane in pink in their honour, which I think is an amazing thing to just bring a visual to it as well. And obviously during COVID times we can't gather. And so her parents have asked that at 5:30 this afternoon, which was the time of Hannah's death, that we light a candle to bring light over the darkness of their lives in the last 12 months in their grief. And so I thought, gentlemen, I brought in a candle, which was made
with
by
their
our
names on it.
producer's wife, Lou, and she's put all of their names on it. So I thought us here at the Big
beautiful.
Breakfast
Good one.
could light a candle on behalf of Hannah, Aaliyah, Leanna, Trey, and all victims of domestic violence who have lost their lives.
Nice.
If you or anyone you know is in need of help, the number for Lifeline is 131114 and the DV hotline 1800 RESPECT.